outside. Okay, we don't have any public invited to be heard, then we can go ahead and move on to the next agenda item, which is approve the minutes from September 11th meeting. Do we have any revisions to the minutes before I ask someone motion to approve?
Any changes?
I didn't see anything either. Did anybody online see anything that they wanted to change on the minutes?
The only thing I noticed is that you're noted as chairing, but you're not noted as attending.
Oh, okay, I can add that.
Okay. Good catch.
Thank you, Katie.
Yep.
All right.
So then the motion would be accept the minutes with the correction.
Okay, can we get,
And here's Jeffrey.
So moved.
Yay! All right. Or
can we get a motion to accept the minutes with the addition?
I moved.
so Rob moved, Katie second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Or say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. All right. And then we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the Human Services Funding deliberations. And I believe that's Ellie Berth taking over that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with my PowerPoint. Don't hear that. And there's a lot of context setting I have to do. And so I'm gonna take my time with this. I'm gonna bring my flip chart, but I'm gonna take my time with this because I think it's important that we get the context down. Because there's a lot. Oh, and Kathy's coming in. All right, perfect.
There.
Yes.
I need a magnet.
You might have yeah, because this one it didn't print out, right? It printed out on the board for this little landscape. Yeah. Well, one packet. All right, there's one packet and you can grab one. All right. You take off the recording and take that off so I can.
Just,
Yeah, X that out. Thank you. All right, I'm assuming everybody can see my PowerPoint. All right. So as we go through this, again, there's a lot of context setting, so please feel free to stop me and ask questions. We put a lot of, Amy and I put a lot of work into this.
thank you guys.
Yeah, and so I want to make sure that we all understand what our choices are tonight, because these are important choices that you're making. And I want to thank all of you, first of all. A lot of meetings. A lot of meetings that you attended, a lot of reading that you had to do. And I just appreciate all the work that you all do. And it really culminates in tonight. And then, of course, when Christine and I go before council on the 16th, is when we get final approval of this. So let's start. So I want to set the stage for where we are as our availability of funding. So this year, as you can see, so in 2022 we went up to 3%. That has not changed, but this year we after we removed what we needed for homelessness and homelessness prevention, we left with 1.6 million for human services advisory funding. There's like 1.3 or 1.4 for homelessness prevention and homelessness services, right? So council said 2 years ago to split it kind of in half, and we've been doing that. And so we, if you look between 2020 and now, we basically doubled what we provide to agencies. And that's all thanks to this board and the work that we did to get council to get us up to 3%, right? And so that's been great, right? In 2020, we had around 800,000. This year we have 1.6, right? So that's kind of double what we had in just 5 years.
Wow.
So thank you to the board for that. However, the gap still continues, right? And this is the reality. This year, though, it's a little bit less than $1 million. I think it's like $850,000 instead of the million that we've had the last 2 years. So that's a good thing, right? So a little bit less of a gap, and we have a little bit more to give. But there's still the requests are close to 2.5 or close to that, and it's just knowing. And here's the thing to think about, all right, is look at the number of how this just continues to increase. You know, we got 3 more agencies applying and 3 more programs that you all considered this year, right? So there were 65 agents or 65 programs that you all read this year. And I forget if Jeffrey or Martha, you two are.
Definitely this year.
Yeah,
I agree, but 2 of them are kind of small.
yeah, typically, I think it might have been Mark and Cassie this year that had, that had, whoever chose health and wellness that's kind of, I think, if you chose health and wellness, you were masochist. Because there's always so many health and wellness or well-being applications.
But they're very
again,
interesting.
Very interesting, but so, again, we're trying to, this is, and I told council this before, and I will tell them again, we're seeing a growing need in the community. And this SNAP stuff, it didn't help, and so, and we have what we have, so.
It seems to me, though, that the number of agencies is increasing faster than the money that we're being given. And
That's exactly right, Bob.
And we have more now.
my answer, though, is that it would seem it'd be all the agencies benefit to limit the number of agencies. But that way.
That is what the kind of conversations we've been having the last couple of years, and it's been a hard decision, right? I think you're right. And I think when we go, I'm assuming we're gonna go in December to council, and then we'll probably go again in March to council. This board will do some work trying to figure out what is it that how do we address this? This is.
Yeah, I'm just thinking with the administration we have in Washington, it's gonna get worse.
Yeah,
The disparity is gonna get wider.
so yes, I completely agree, and this is a conversation that we've been having with this board since 2023, right? And it's been a hard conversation because part of the conversation, and this is why I created the model and why I'm saying the context, is there's some hard choices, right? Because we've been funding so many agencies for so long for some really good projects. And so it's as we think about it, we have to make some hard decisions. What are we not going to fund? So, okay, so just setting the stage. So as a reminder, we made a decision back in April downstairs. We made a few decisions back in April downstairs, right? So one was we said we were going to turn these our priority area limits into hard limits and not guidelines like they have been in the past. And we also said that we were going to allow direct financial assistance. Well, guess what? People applied for direct financial assistance.
Yay.
And so we have those in the applications. What we didn't know what was going to happen, and so is we didn't know who was going to. I did put it in the application guide and stuff. I'm not sure how many people actually read the application guide, so I'm not sure how much agencies took into account the decisions that we made. Okay, because yeah. And so what that has led to is the hard conversation that we're having tonight. I'm going to present 2 models to the board. Okay, one model is based on this, and the other model is based on what we've done in the past. And the board and I will tell you what my preference is, but ultimately it's your decision. But we're going to go through that tonight and look at what our choices are. Appreciate, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think, well, yes, I would say that, you put a lot of time and effort into pulling this together. You both, really tried to create that comprehensive overview, to give all the information that is needed. And I think you'll talk about why you recommend one over the other. And ultimately, this board will vote to to take that forward to council, who will have the final approval, but
Yeah.
you put a lot, it wasn't just, like, I'm just gonna put these models out, like you spent hours and hours and hours, weekends, doing that. So yeah, it's a very comprehensive.
All right. So as a reminder, once the scores are in, the scores are in. That's what I go off of. The only real place that I get to experiment and try and meet our goals, our funding goals, is in the formula. We said that we were gonna do we've always done the same, since Caitlin, previous chair, created the formula, which is the 1.5 standard deviation. That has stayed the same. I've not messed with that. So the only place that I get to work to ensure that we meet our funding decisions and goals is percentages. So you're gonna see different percentages for the different priority areas, okay? So we're gonna do the 2 funding models. The first model that we're gonna look at is the model based on what we decided in April. And then I took each priority area independently, and I had to create, and I will kind of shift, I will actually go to the spreadsheet and show you here in a second. I took each priority area independently, and I used only those scores in that priority area to create the standard deviation. So if you look at the forms that you have in front of you, every single agency or every priority is gonna have a different standard of deviation. That's because I took only the scores in that priority area to create it, okay? And so they're different for every priority area. So here is what happened. So in housing stability, in that priority area, we did not get enough applications to cover the 320,000 that was allocated. So we have 70,000 left in that bucket. Okay, so that's money that we got to decide whether we're, and I'll talk a little about there some of our options, but that's money that's sitting out there, okay?
And that's if they got the max?
No, that's based on their scores. That's always based on, and you can see it in the page. It says it's on there. You can look at what their scores, what the standard deviation stuff is. So that's based on their scores in that priority area.
Is that an option too? We could consider to fully fund, even though they didn't meet that standard.
No, no,
That's in concrete. That's not debatable.
that's because we're formulaic. We're.
Which is not too far off.
Now, you could, at the end of this, you could do something that is, so the option is, you could say, because it would be fair to say, okay, we have 70,000, we're just gonna distribute it equally among all the housing agencies. You could do that. But what you can't say it's gonna give everybody, you say, we have these $70,000. One option is we would just want to redistribute it back to all of the agencies that were awarded funding. That's something you can do, right? Because that's not taking any one agency, say we're gonna give you 100%, it's taking, we're gonna divide this equally among all the agencies. That's an option.
And it could equal that.
It could equal that, or it could equal more. Yes, Katie. Your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to recommend we let you get through the presentation and then do the Q&A, because I feel like we could spend a lot of time in it. Since you did put all that effort into it, I'd love to just let you speak to it and then talk about it.
Okay, that's fine.
just my recommendation.
All right, we'll keep going. All right. Again, health and well-being is the biggest, and if you look at, I worked those, I'm pretty proud of myself. I worked those percentages until all that was left was $235 in that bucket. And again, all I touched was the percentages. I did not touch any of, the scores are the scores, and so it's all I could do was work on the percentages. And then education and skill building, again, I got it down to $139 left in that bucket. Same thing with food nutrition, I got it to $677 left And this is all by working with and changing percentages, not scores, but the percentages. You can see all those agencies. Okay. Self-sufficiency got it down to 329. That was left in that bucket. But here is where we hit a snag. So in safe, oh, and I got, Katie, you ready to get again?
That's an old hand.
Okay, all right. I just looked up. We had an interesting situation in the safety and justice priority area. We had one agency ask for a lot of money because they lost a federal grant. Now I did talk to them and they understand and they weren't expecting for us to fully. But because we're formulaic, it throws us into a tizzy. So that 48,007 is technically now, it is, they scored high enough to get more than that, but that is half of the priority limit. So the priority limit is like 96,000, and we've had a kind of a standing rule that no one agency can receive more than 50% of what total in that priority area. That's been kind of a standing rule that we've always had. So that 48,007 is 50%. But even with that, we were still negative. And so I needed to cut more. So I actually, I forget exactly what the number is. I divided 1,346 by the number of agencies and I subtracted that from all the agencies. And so I got it to 5. And so that really hurts safety and justice a lot. Because it really, and I know that this board we made this a long time ago not to consider historical funding, but that cuts a lot of that priority area gets hit very hard by this situation, because we only allocated 96,000 for it, right? And so that puts us in a difficult situation. So here is the impacts of going to Model 1, right? We had this money left over. It's $72,277, and so we need to consider how to spend it. One idea is to redistribute their funds in their priority areas, but this would lead to funding some agencies at about 100% or more of their requests. Another idea, something you brought up, is to create an emergency fund, but this would have to be brought before council for their approval. The other challenge with creating an emergency fund or not spending all our money, and I'm not sure about our current financial director, but I was told by the previous financial director, if you're not spending all your money, that means you don't need it. Yes, and so that was kind of a warning. So we have to decide whether we want to stick with this model, but before you make that decision, I also want to go over Model 2. Okay. We want to stop and ask questions here, or do you want me to go to Model 2 and then come back to the conversation?
I would like to ask some questions
Okay.
real quick about this model.
Okay.
If we did the second option and saved a reserve for emergencies throughout the year, whether it be like so whether it be some type of emergency that an organization is requesting, would it have to only be divided based off of the area? So for example, if someone comes in and they are technically considered safety and justice, then they could only utilize $5, or would all these additional balances be put in?
I think that would be up to the board to discuss and council to approve. You would
Okay.
put a recommendation to council and council would have to approve.
Okay, so it could.
It could just be that Christina controls these $70,000. Somebody comes to Christina, it could be that. But the trade-off is you're hurting safety and justice agencies quite a bit. Okay, and I'm gonna show you what I did in Model 2 to address that.
Okay, that's a good question for this month.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'm gonna keep going then. And again, this is just reiterating what is happening. safety and justice gets hit the worst here. They get 40%, nobody got 114, so they get 40% or 30% of the request. All right. So model two. Model two is the previous model that the board has used for years, where priority areas are more guidelines than hard limit buckets, right? That's the second model. And so what I did here is we have, so the big difference here is instead of scoring it by individual agency, the formula is created by combining all the total scores and getting the average of all total scores, getting the standard deviation of all the scores. So if you look at this really big thing here, you know, where before it was piece by piece, this is all of it. And it creates a different format of modeling, right? And so in this model, there are a couple of agencies that get 100% of their funding. So for example, in this model, the in-between would get 100% of its request, and so would the R centers for their housing direct financial assistance would get 100% of their request. And there would be 61,488 left over if we were to want to. And in health and well-being, again, we spent 289 total, which is a little bit less than the other model that we did. And also two agencies don't get funded in this model than they did in the other model because they didn't score as high. So in this model, medicine horse wholeness with horses would not get funded. They did get funded in the other model, and Restart doesn't get funded in this model, and they did get funded in the other model. Allegiance Ranch didn't get funded in any of the models. So that is an issue. That's something to think too. Education and skill building. A few agencies get 100% of their request, like Tiny Tim scored high enough to get 100% of the request. Let's see what else scored high enough to get. I think they're the only ones in this one that scored high enough to get 100% of the request. And then I forgot to explain what you're seeing on the end over there is I just at the end I created what is left over, and I just divided that equally between all of the agencies. And so actually in the TLC would actually get $556 above their that's what it ends up being, $556 for every agency. For nutrition, same thing. People get, so the Art Center would get 556 more because they export enough to get 100% of their funding. So they get an extra $556 for their food program, their food purchasing program. Self-sufficiency, similar, the Art Center again scored high enough to get the basic needs, so they get $556 more. I think that's the only one they got full marks. Now here's the big difference. In safety and justice, we would spend 152,000, which is 56,000 over the bucket area, right? And so that is the big difference, right? We're overspending in that bucket area. So I am going to show you something real quick. I'm gonna stop sharing that, and I'll come back to it in a second. But I want to show you this too, because I think it's important, and then we can jump into the conversation. In 1 second, and you all, we sent you PowerPoints or PDFs that you should all have it. But here's the Excel version of the whole matrix. So here is, and I want to make it bigger so everybody can see it. Here's what I want to focus on. Is in this model, I want to focus on this right here.
Model 2.
Yes, model 2. This is the 20%, and this is, if we were to spend 20%, this is what we're supposed to be. And here is, I'm going to highlight these. Let's see. All right. So instead of spending 20, we would spend 16 on housing, 18 on health and wellness or health and well-being, 21% on food and nutrition, so we would overspend in food and nutrition. 20%, we actually be, I mean, 7,000, only still 20, statistically, still 20%. We would spend by 1% higher on self-sufficiency, be 15 instead of the 14 that we decided. But the big one is safety and justice. It would be, we had set aside 6%, it would be asking us to spend 10% of the human services dollar on safety and justice. So with that in mind, I wanted to share that because that's an important context. Let me share now this.
Is there an excess in Model 2?
There is, and it was 35,000, and I divided it by all the agencies, and so it's 556 to each. We could decide to keep that 35,000. Yeah, I didn't put that in the PowerPoint, but we could. I just, again, my proclivity is use all the money. That's typically my proclivity, is use all the money. And so here's what it allowed me to do. I was able to allocate 100% to the highest scores, which has always been in previous boards. They always wanted to reward those agencies that did well enough to score the 100%. In Model 1, there's nobody that gets 100% of the funding because we just couldn't do it. Model 2 allows us to score 100%, and it had 34,503 left over. Now, like I said, I divided this amount by every awarded program, and it ended up being 556 to each program. We could, like I said, the board could decide, no, we want to keep that. I saw some notes here. Okay, hold on. We would like to keep that for an emergency fund. That's up to you. All right. Alejandro says he likes the Model 2 and distributing the priorities to. Oh, I'll stop sharing.
I like Model 2 as well.
Well, yeah, let me stop sharing so we can all talk. Unless there's any more questions, we can jump in. And I know, Katie, you have your hand up.
Yeah, whenever it's time to take a turn, I wanted to just say, I was just curious, this is, I guess, a question, yes. What caused you to distribute equally? It seems to me that some of those organizations are, I'm just versus ratably, I guess, is my question.
Fairness and equality is the only reason I did it.
But so help me understand that, like some of these organizations are much smaller and have a lower need, and then others are. So help me understand fairness and quality. I guess I'm an equity person, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
So that's a great question. I think the reason I did that is that fundamentally it's that if we have questions from agencies, so their first amount is based on their scores. This is extra dollars that's not based on their scores. And so I did not want to, the only way that I saw something that would be above reproach and not take into account anybody that's their opinion about an agency, whether size or not, was just to distribute it equally. It was really, it's really that their first amount is based on their scores, how you scored them and how they sit in our formula. But that 35,000 is extra money that, because of how the formula works, was left over. And I think that, again, to be above reproach and not be questioned, like, well, why did you give this person this? It was, I'm just going to distribute it equally. That's honestly the simplest answer I have.
Yeah, I think I just wonder about that, because to me, it's like, I believe in equity, but equity and equality are different things. And so, for example, let's just say, here's an example of what might be another, and I hear what you're saying about not just going based on the size, although that would ratably increase everyone the same percentage versus their base amount if it was spread accordingly. Another possibility, if you want to say, we want to be more of a meritocracy, is to say the top 25% of scorers, right, the highest points, and tier the points, because I think what's the reason they got more is because their applications were better. So, or that was the consensus thinking. So I actually think dividing it equally rewards those who didn't have as strong an application as others.
Yeah, that you could argue that. I just I didn't think about, we would have to create another formula to figure out whether it's the 25% highest, whether it's, we'd have to create another formula to do it.
That's why, to me, the simplest way is everyone got some piece of the overall pie. If there's 35,000 left over, to me, the fair thing that aligns with the evaluations is that the 35,000 gets divided exactly the same way. So the highest point folks get the I just think it's a ratable equity approach as opposed to just spreading it evenly. That's the only, I mean, I support number 2 for the reasons you're advocating it, but the division of the last 35 doesn't make sense to me. Although spending it 100% makes sense to me because I believe use it or lose it is absolutely the way this stuff goes. So I'll stop now.
Okay. All right, thank you. I think Martha and then Cassie.
Oh, I like Model 2 and I don't think that it disrupts the fidelity of the paper models that we did to kind of play with those numbers and not have them be fixed, but have them be close based on scoring. Because I too value the people who took the time and the effort to actually answer the questions. And I think that's an important aspect of it. And I would also agree that those high point scorers would be, I don't know, I don't want to say reward because that sounds bad, but it matters when people actually answer the question, when they actually present something that shows that the value that they're bringing to the community and why.
All right. Cassie.
All right, so I definitely like Model 2, and I always have to be like devil's advocate, and I'm just thinking like the way you did it equally, right? Because I think all of these organizations are really worthy and need money. And so maybe some of them were really better at filling out the application, but that doesn't mean that they need the money more on one level. So I'm okay with doing it equally, the way you said at the beginning.
And what we
That
can
makes
do
sense.
tonight, yeah, thanks, Cassie. So let me just clarify. What we can do tonight is if we decide, if the board discusses and decide, well, Katie's dividing it by the top 25%, that's fine. We can still vote on that. And then I would just go back and work the formula out, right? Whatever we decide, I can still go back and do it. But we just have to have a clear vote saying, this is how we're going to do it. I see Alejandro's hand up.
My biggest takeaway of Model 2 that I really like is the redistribution of that percentage priority, which, obviously we brought our own biases into those. And by doing that, we were able to fund some organizations that weren't even going to get anything. And also places, very important places like El Comité, were getting like not even half of what they were requesting on that first model. And it's more equitable with that second model. I just believe that's my opinion.
Okay.
I have a couple questions.
Yes,
Alberto. Can you talk to me about the difference? Because it looks like safety and justice on both models kind of presented uniquely. Can you talk to me about the difference in both models? Like you were saying something about safety and justice in the first one.
So the biggest difference in the two models is that in the second model, I don't take into consideration the 96,000 limit. That's the biggest difference.
Okay.
And so because it was in and amongst all it was not by itself, it was part of the entire thing. It then reflected the percentages of the entire group, not its own specific. If we keep it specifically and we keep it to that 96,000 or needing to get to that 96,000, the only way to get there is to reduce the percentages dramatically.
Okay.
That's the biggest difference, is in the Model 2, they're not, what's the word?
That's what really impacted.
They're not, when somebody is taken out, what's it called? Somebody help me here.
Outlier.
Not
It's not
disqualified, but,
capped.
Withdrawing.
right, it's not capped and it's not, exempt? I don't know what the word is. You know,
No
that-
floor.
Yeah, they're part of the larger piece.
Excluded.
Yeah, so they're not capped at the 96,000. And so that's the biggest difference. And and their scores are now it's not just safety and justice scores. Now they're part of the whole application process. And so that changes their standard deviation, and of course it changes the percentage that they get. That's a big difference. Yes, Jeffrey?
So this list is your Model 2?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
big one.
I'm just skimming the 2026 award. I see some applicants got $0.
Yes, they didn't pour high enough in this model.
Yeah, which actually pleases me that's, there are some that just didn't cut it and that we're not spending money on programs that we don't value. So I'm actually pleased to see that we have some that just don't get any money, but you're saying with the redistribution of the $34,000, that some of those organizations would get a share of that,
No,
they would get a share.
no, if you look, there's zeros across the board. The only people that get
The
the
ones that got funded.
are the ones that got
Oh, I
funded.
see the last column, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And if there is one that's on there, then that's a mistake on my part, and I need to, but if you look at the zeros, look all the way across, it has to be zeros all the way across.
So back in April, we identified those top four, the housing stability, health and well-being, food and nutrition, education, skill building. Those were the four highest
Right.
priorities.
And I'll hear,
Should we consider redistributing the extra, the 34 amongst just those? Since we decided earlier in the year that those were the highest priority.
so let me share this again so the whole board can see it. They still are how do I share this?
And while you're sharing that, I just want to say so it sounds like everybody's kind of in agreement that they want to distribute those fundings across the board. And I just want to be devil's advocate here and say 500 to each agency is a little impact compared to us reserving potentially that 30,000 for an organization that might come down the road and have recently to council, while El Comite and another organization, was it the TLC Learning Center,
Right.
that came before the board and asked for an allocation anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 because it was an emergency. And so city council has council contingency funds that they can distribute toward that. But I'm just thinking down the way, if there's anything that happens with the food portion, right? They're gonna change SNAP benefit requirements. And so a lot of people are gonna be impacted. Longmont's one of the higher, has a higher population of people who are food insecure compared to other cities in the county. And so I'm just thinking of kind of those emergencies down the road, I don't think that we're gonna have a problem with spending that money. I do think agencies are gonna come and ask for it. And so my hope is that we would have some type of reserve, because council contingency funds are a certain amount only, and they can only fund so much. And whoever asks for those first will get that funding. And if there's something down the road, like Wild Plum Center that needs to open up an additional classroom for X amount of kids, that's an impact that we could be making on a larger scale versus giving an extra 500 to an agency. So I just want to throw that information in there
That's fine.
and make a point with that and kind of just explain some of my logic as to where that's coming.
Yeah, and we can talk to that. Before we talk to that, I wanna address Jeffrey's point. It's a good point, right? We said that housing, health and well-being, education, they're still the top four. Even though it's a little bit different, they're still the top four, and you can see it right here, 16, 18, 21, and 20. And Sub-efficiency still is 15 and 10. So there's still the
Yeah.
the top funded.
I mean, his suggestion is kind of a hybrid between the two.
Yeah,
I'd
I
maybe like
hear your
that
point about 556 doesn't do a whole lot for most organizations, such a small amount. So can we be strategic about that excess? So if we don't save it as a reserve, can we be strategic
Right.
about?
And I think that's Katie's point
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Yeah,
And whether
yeah.
it's across all 6
Katie was thinking
categories.
more about high scores, but you're thinking more, kind of a hybrid, more about high scores within the top 4 priorities.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that better.
I'm okay with whatever. I mean, I just need the guidance.
Math for you though?
That's fine. I love that stuff.
He loves
Maybe an hour,
paper.
Yeah, like, I'm
To-
fine with that.
to
And I'm
be
fine if y'all wanna
clear-
keep it too.
The suggestion is for the excess of 35 grand, right? To be spread
Yes.
to the top 4 priority list evenly.
Or a combination, I'm thinking about Katie's piece, it would be divided between the highest scores in those four areas of housing, health and well-being, food, nutrition, and actually it was just those top 3.
you're right,
Yeah.
right.
In April, it was just those top 3. We could just do it in those top, divide that, whatever, 35,000 to the highest earners in those top 3 that our human services need assessment pointed out. That's kind of a hybrid of what Katie was saying and what you're saying, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
That does sound pretty good. Now, it won't touch that change of percentage that you did, right?
No, it won't touch anything because this is extra money that you, like, to Crystal's point, this is money that's really in the board's hand on how do you want to use it. You could keep it, you could do that, you could do what I just did.
Yeah,
you could
but
do
I
that.
strongly disagree with keeping it. That's not really what this board's about. It's about funding those organizations throughout this
Right,
year.
whichever, I'm cool with whatever, I'm just pointing it out there. If we did keep it, we'd have to talk about, Christina would have to figure out a process of how she would, because it would be back in Christina's purview then on how to use it. She'd have to talk, because it had to get approved by council and you'd have to figure it out with council. But Kathy had her hand up too.
As I just say, I like the hybrid, and I think we should give all, I mean, we were given this money to distribute, we should distribute it.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna make a decision in one meeting?
Right, so what I'm hearing is that there's kind of a consensus, or not consensus, but there's a majority that wants to give it all. And then, but the question then becomes is how do you want to give it? Do you want to do? And I would do the math.
First, did you say which your recommendation was?
My recommendation is model 2, because and again, this is the first time I'm going to say this, and then I've been here for 7 years. With model 1, we just heard one priority area way too much. If they would have asked for less, I'm not sure if I would be doing that, but because we don't tell them what to ask for, and that's part of the conversation that we've had. It just hurts safety and justice in a way that model 2 does not.
I think the first decision point is a vote on keeping money or distributing it all. And then have a vote on
What's the?
either how to distribute it, a suggestion on how to distribute it if you keep it, and how to distribute it. There,
Yeah,
So I think those are like the decisions.
all right, so Alejandro has his hands up.
Yeah, to be honest, again, from the get, I didn't really like this prioritization thing that we had done at the beginning. I actually liked the way that we did it the previous year. I think it was more equitable, but just,
Well, model 2 is what we did is what we've been doing for the last.
yeah,
since I-
model 2 is something that I'm very strong supporter of.
Okay,
I move we spend 100% of the funds.
okay. So that's a
I
motion.
second that motion.
Okay, there's a second.
I third it. Oh,
Okay,
man.
well, we'll take a vote here in a
I
second.
vote. Oh, sorry,
So
never
Katie-
mind.
Katie
I'm getting
moved
carried
it,
away.
and who's Alejandro or Marta who seconded it? All right, any more discussion on that? All right, then we take a vote. All in favor of spending it all, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed? Okay, thank you. So we have 2 opposed. Nobody abstaining, so the motion carries, so we're spending it all. All right, so now where I need your help.
Yeah.
So now is the how, right? So we're spending it all. So we have, I think, 3 options on the table, right? That I heard of. Katie or Jeffrey, feel free to jump in and correct me.
Yeah.
Okay, so first option is mine, which I think is, we don't want to do the equal 556, right? That's fine. Second option is, Katie said the top 25 agencies, top scorers.
But.
Or what did you say?
I'm going to amend because what I was just giving an example of a way that you could do it based on something other than equality. And so
Okay.
I was just giving an example. I actually am in favor of, I think Jeffrey's idea of the priority areas is a good one. And so my
Okay.
recommendation would actually be divide the total by the 3 areas. Is it 3 areas?
Yeah, health and wellness, home and food, okay?
And so then I would say, whatever that amount is
food.
by area, I would align, you have a new, you have 100% of that area. I would divide that in the same way that the initial funds were allocated to the whole area. So in other
Okay, so
words,
help me
each
understand
bucket is its own. So for example, pick a
The
priority.
2020.
So you're
So housing
just,
stability,
you have housing, did you say? Housing stability.
Yeah.
So you take however so the bottom total is 100% of the funds. And each of those within that category got a percentage of that 100%. I would push the whatever that funds, that priority share is in the same percentage, because then it's prioritized according to the merits of those applications, because that's how it was funded originally. So I would mirror the way it's allocated fund personally. That's what I would do.
Yeah, because this one is like 20, like there's 4 in the original. But if we're doing top 3, housing is not in the top 3.
Whatever the priorities are, I'm saying if the
So our top
rationale
3
is the priorities, then do the priorities. You got to have a rationale. I agree with.
I'm just trying to understand, because I got to figure out the math, right? We got to figure out the math.
You have new hundreds is what I'm saying. You have new hundreds, right? So each fund, each sub fund, right? Each area has its own 100%, right? So each of those funds currently has a percentage of that 100%. Do you understand
They're
that?
all 20% though.
No.
Well,
They
yeah,
each got a fifth of the funds?
no,
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 the top 3.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying take the total amount. Let's just say, so let's make it easier. Let's call it 36,000. If there's 3 areas, each of those areas is getting 12,000.
correct.
Allocate.
I'm with you up to right there.
Okay, now
I have a
I'm saying
picture?
allocate the exact same way you allocated whatever their total is. It's a simple, like, literally, it's a cut and paste to the percentages. It'll push the percentages exactly the same. So do it exactly the same way that you funded it.
But with a different amount.
I think, let me
No,
try. I
she
think
said
she's
with the
saying
new
amount
if
doesn't
100.
one
matter.
of them
One at
has
a time.
Okay, hold on,
12%.
one at a time, hold on. Let's get Kathy attention to, I'm sorry that I'm not getting it. I'm trying, I get
All right.
the,
Let me try. I think what she's saying is if one has 12% now, when we distribute the extra, they get 12% again.
Yeah.
I'm saying match the
12% of the extra?
No.
okay, so,
Yes.
no,
Not 12% of 35, 12% of the 12, yes. That's how you maintain percentages. You just have a new size pot and you keep the percentages the same.
Right.
This is not difficult.
All right, so we have
Okay, so I think-
$100. If you have an extra $100 to give out, the 12% guy gets 12.
That's
The other
right.
guy, the 30% guy gets 30 of the
So
100.
Oh,
Exactly.
Okay, okay.
So
So then I gotta go back and say,
and then.
You know,
Vintage.
so let me, I think I'm gonna do some work here on Excel, and share it. I think I know what you're saying. Let me,
I just have a comment.
This sounds like Clue.
Education and skill building, childcare is a part of that bucket, and we have a childcare crisis right now. And so, I don't know, I know that the 3 priorities, we're not including that, but I feel like that's a priority.
Well,
And
that's the whole
so,
bias situation, Crystal, that I was mentioning. With the priorities, our biases are feeding those up and lifting them up beyond others, and others are being left. It's not that
well,
equitable.
we're going, so the priorities came from the assessment, the needs assessment. Right, and we found in the needs assessment that in each group that was assessed, the top 3 themes were housing, health, and food, right? So that's how the priorities came to be.
Right.
And how we figured out, okay, well, this is what the community's saying that they need, therefore, we're gonna lift these ones up. But if we're talking about allocating additional funding, now we can get into the weeds with it, right? Like how much of that population were people with small children? You know, I mean, with the statistics as they are, like that Longmont can only meet 20% of the need for childcare 0 to 4. Like, I just feel like education and skill building is also a need. And so I would hate to leave it out of any additional funding.
Yeah, that's your
And I
feeling.
just want to throw that in there.
that's fine. I mean, again, this is where we're having the conversation, right? We've already voted that we're gonna spend it all, and now we're having the conversation. This is the next vote, is how do we spend it all? So you wanna add education and skill building into the mix of the priorities, and that's fine, we can have that conversation.
I mean, I did write like a note that it was interesting. I wonder how this would have panned out if children was a box of its own. Because like a lot of these needs are like for the family and they're intermingled, and like some agencies apply for like multiple groups. I wonder what it would look like if we had one that was just kids.
But to remind me, how did we get from those 3 buckets to 20% across 4 buckets? Because it looks like we do have education skill building as one of the 20% recipients.
Yeah, that's because we didn't want, we didn't wanna, it was 26% last year and we didn't wanna hurt it so bad. And so we actually lowered, last year they got 26% of funding, and so we moved it down to 20. That's how we got there. I remember that conversation in April.
At a special meeting.
At the special meeting, they had 26% of funding in 2024.
And then, like, if I'm being honest, like, I'd rather give more to education and skill building to fund childcare than I would safety and justice.
So they are already getting more, they're getting 21%
Yeah.
of the funding in model 2. So they are the highest, they're the highest funded of all of the priorities.
So,
Well, I think the other thing, oh, go ahead, sorry. I mean,
no, I'm
this
just
will
thinking
happen
about
before.
model 1 and how, like, we're trying to create that cushion for safety and justice. But does that impact
Well, I think we're,
education and skill building?
maybe a little bit, but not nearly as bad as safety and justice was. And you can take a look.
It still goes up a percentage with that.
I mean, I think part of the issue is when we discuss these priorities, I do think that, you know, poop hit the fan afterwards. Like, yeah, immigration was probably the hot spot, but, you know, we did not have the level of, I mean, what we just went through in terms of food insecurity. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm concerned, like, we can open up Pandora's box again, but you've kind of already done that. So I don't think we can.
We can't change, well, you already,
You already voted on
you
the.
voted on model 2.
I'm not recommending changing priority 2. I agree with you that you identified something we all kind of agreed that your way was better than the way we discussed. And we could sit here till the cows come home talking about why each of these areas is important. So
Right.
if we cannot agree that there's 3 or 4 top priorities because perhaps the climate has changed, then the fairest thing to do is take the 35,000 and allocate it the exact same way you allocated everything else, because that was a meritocracy.
So then I would. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we, I mean, we could have one person say it's childcare or help, and there, it's all true. Like, it's all true. There's not enough money to go around.
Yeah,
Everything.
I mean, that's just a reality. We're never gonna have all the money that we need to meet all the needs that we get presented. That is
And some of,
super
yeah.
true.
And some of these organizations, I mean, they wrote these applications before this whole disaster in the last, government shutdown. And we know the food insecurity people are dying on the vine because they just ran out of any reserves they ever had spent, right? So, I mean, you could also say, someone could say,
And we're just talking about how we're gonna allocate the additional funding.
It's 34,000,
That's
right, so
correct.
we're,
that's correct.
the
That's what
1
we're
point,
talking about.
yeah, the 1.56 million we've already assigned.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about $34,000. How do you all want to do this?
The other thing we have to keep in mind too is we also don't know what other grantors are gonna do in the foreseeable
We
future
don't.
to address these things. We have to operate in a vacuum to a certain
You
extent.
do, exactly right. And for example, to your point, Katie, very good point. Guess what? The county just gave
Right.
1.15 million to food.
Yeah.
Right? They gave 850,000 to community food share, and then they gave another 100,000 to each of the FRN.
FRC.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So-
that money is spent. Well, guess what? They did for
Yeah,
a reason.
no, I agree.
That money's spent, right?
I totally agree. I totally agree. But to
Which is
Jeffrey's
why-
point, that's why I think in a way, we do have to work in a vacuum because we can't control what other governments or other funders do.
All we can do is, evaluate the applications that we received.
Right.
And the
I guess
Yeah,
I would be open to adding education and skill building to the top to
Being it more,
four.
that's fine.
If we also take, I think, one of the original comments about awarding the highest scoring applicants within those categories. So for example, under education and skill building,
So we'd stretch it further.
yeah, you've got the parent engagement network that scored an 80, and you've got Tiny Tim that scored 122. I would much rather give
Yeah,
Tiny Tim extra money than
yeah.
the other one I mentioned, so that some high scoring applicants in education skill building get some additional funding.
Yeah,
So historically, that has been the stance of the board. I mean, I know you don't like to use the word reward, but the board always said we.
I want the outcome, I just didn't want to call it that.
Yeah, so that's something historically what this board has been, is like, if you did a really good application and a good presentation, we want to honor that.
I think on the comment of somebody, I put, this should be like an example of how they took feedback and
Yeah.
did
Did
the
something with
work.
it.
when I think it goes beyond just the application, like we all looked at these organizations and looked at the outcomes. And so when we're talking about TLC and the need that they're meeting in the community and the extra classrooms that they're opening and the extra children and childcare that they're providing families, those are the outcomes that we scored on as well.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just.
Yeah, that's why scores don't help.
And if they did a great job,
Yeah.
it's like, so the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. So just to get some clarity here, here's what Jeffrey's suggesting. And of course, let me know. So we're gonna divide the 34,503 by 4. So that would be what, Christina?
8,000, hold on. 4,503,
Yeah, that's what's left. 34,503.
6,2,575,
So we're gonna round that down to, because we don't want to be old.
86,25.
All right, so 8625 equals this divided by 4. I'm gonna do this.
See the numbers floating around in this head right.
And so now here's where I need the kind of guidance that Katie was providing, so 8626. So now, each area, each of the top four, so we're gonna add
8625.
right, we're gonna add 8625 to each of these agencies, right? And then here's where I need or each of these areas, here's where I need the help, just to get the final thing. So 8625. Then, so let's go to education, we're talking about it. All right, so we have the top scorer is TLC 122. Do we just want to give them all the 8625? Or do you want to say the top, who's next after that? I think this is probably Wild Plum.
Yeah, I would say welcome.
So then Wild Plum is next at 109. Do you want to divide the 86 by those two?
I was thinking the top 50%. So if, the spread of the scores is from
Mhm.
90 to 110, everything from 100 to 110. Yeah,
Then divide the
Okay.
86. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I can do that. The topic, yeah.
Yeah,
Does that sound all right with you?
I agree with
Alright.
that. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so let's write this down. This is really important notes. Eliberto's gonna divide the 34,503 by 4,
25, yeah.
okay? And then he's gonna distribute it evenly among the top 50% of scorers
That's right. Yep,
score bucket.
within each priority area.
right.
We just need a motion.
Yeah.
Safety and justice are not
Okay.
included.
Safety does not include it. It would only be the top 50% of scorers
So health,
in
food and education.
health, food, housing, health, food, and education.
Sounds good.
Okay,
That
does
sounds
that
good.
sound
Mhm.
okay?
I vote we do
50%
that.
of scores in the top bucket.
Yes, in the top bucket,
Education.
right? Okay,
Love it.
then I need a motion for that.
So moved.
Okay, Katie, move that. I need a second. Jeffrey, second. Okay, any more discussion? Oh, Alejandro, you have your hand up. He doesn't have it up, okay.
Okay.
I
Okay,
was seconding.
okay,
Oh, okay.
all right. Any more discussion? I can do the math. All right, then we need a vote. All in favor? It looks like it's unanimous. All right, so that's what I will do. Top 50% in those four will get an equal distribution of the 8625. And that'll leave us just like a couple of dollars in the $3. That's all.
So some of these groups that have like meaningful work and that suck at the application, do we have like a class available for them to learn how to be better at it?
We used to, and I'll do a better job this next year of training. I just wish I had more help.
I mean, I think
The video
Yeah.
and then.
there was a huge range.
Oh,
Seemed like the range was very wide in terms of skill. And I will say it felt hard to me maybe this is because I'm a first timer, but it felt hard to me. I know some of those people had really good grant writers and others
Yes,
did
Yeah.
not.
yeah. So,
And that's
so
What it is.
So here's an update for the board. Boulder County has some money. I don't have any money. Boulder County has some money. They have $5,000 and they're gonna be doing an engagement with the nonprofits on this application to see what their thoughts on how to improve it, what to change. I tried to get you all in, but I don't have any money to get you all in. I wanted to get you all in. I think I'd love for my board to give a chance. But if individually, if you have ideas, email them to me and I'll share with Boulder County on how to improve the application, what you want to see different. I just don't have them. I wanted to do a focus group with you all, but I just don't have the money for it.
It's
To
so
pay
verbose.
that consultant.
It's so verbose. I mean, just like,
Yeah, so yeah, just email me now and I will put it into the mix.
So you have to notify after the board makes a decision and hopefully just approves this recommendation.
So the board has already approved the recommendations.
Well, I mean, the trustees, the council, they have to.
Yes, so on December 16th, Christina and I will go to Crystal and the rest of the council and we'll say, here are the recommendations. We'll do three things. We'll do 3 things on the 16th. Recommendations, I also give a report out on what I have information around homelessness. It's in there and the homesteading program. I'll talk about the family hotel, but I'll have family hoteling piece in there as well. And then they will approve the funding for next year.
And you notify the applicants that.
We
you're not-
notify them right away, so by next week, we'll be reaching out. What we tell applicants is that this is only a recommendation to council. And then we say, this is when the council's meeting, and we have had agencies show up. And they thank council, or we've had agencies show up and say, hey, we need more money than what you guys gave us.
But those that don't receive funding, what kind of opportunities do they have?
So we offer to talk to, and I've said this before, we offer to talk to them about, like, here's why you struggled. Yeah,
Great, that's great.
yeah, I always,
One contact.
yes, I always offer to talk to any agency that didn't get funding and about why. So,
I had another question. The staff scores are always lower than the board scores.
because the board has, no,
Okay,
no, the board has more, and this is intentionally.
yeah.
The board has always had more voice or stronger
Wait,
weight
Yeah.
than staff.
You're using a different.
And I'm looking at different things.
Yeah.
Even though I'm looking at financial stability, I'm not looking at, I do read the program stuff, but I don't read it really well. And that's not my job. Yeah,
Too well.
yeah, it's your job. You guys are the ones judging the program, the outcomes are what we need. That's your job. My job is, A, do I think that this agency is thinking strategically? So question number one is on strategies. I look at that. Do I think this agency has diverse funding? I look at their budget. You know, do they have a good mix of government, private, foundation? Do I think that they have good reserves? I look at there's a question about reserves. Are they thinking wisely about having reserves? The only thing I look at on the program side is, do I think that the program request is a reasonable request from Longmont? And I'll tell you my guide, typically my guide is, and I would ask you guys to think about this too. My guide is, if your program request from Longmont is 25 of your program budget, I'm gonna score you low. Because I think Longmont should not be funding more than, if my highest scores are those that are in the 5 to 10% range.
Yeah.
Of a program. That's just my opinion. I think we should be funding 5 to 10% of any program. We should not be funding 25% of a program.
Yeah, because if we don't fund it, then the program will go.
Well, what the reason I say that is because that tells me that they are relying so much on the government that they're not out there engaging with the community to get that other level of support. So that's what I read, not what you guys read. So, and I always offer to talk to any agency that doesn't get funded.
That's great.
And I'm sure I'm gonna have several agencies reaching,
Lots of agencies. Well,
a lot,
3 or 4.
3 or 4 agencies that come to us. All right. So we,
I know I gave kudos to people who actually know how to budget.
I have a question, Alberto.
yes,
I heard recently that evictions are now going to the Boulder courthouse.
that is true. I heard that too.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what's going on there?
I don't know the
Being
reason.
represented by Bridge to Justice.
Because of staffing.
Yeah, I don't know the, yeah,
There wasn't a judge here.
But there's still no representation or like.
well, we're still sending our mediators, like our mediators are going to Boulder every Friday. So we're still sending mediators. I don't know about Bridge, I think at the Safety and Justice, who was there with the, at Safety and Justice?
Justice.
I forget who did that.
I was
The
at that.
hearing? Didn't they say?
Oh,
that they-
no, only the hearing. Never mind, sorry.
Okay, I forget who was with me on Safety and Justice. My concern is, I don't know, and so I want to be careful about this because I don't know. Right, I think I can always go back, and look at the video. I'm not sure if they lost their EPRS funding from Boulder. Bridge Justice, you might want to. Yeah. So that's a huge.
Yeah.
So, but you can, I think they talked about it in the video.
I just didn't know what the strategy was or why
Yeah.
from Longmont are getting sent to
It's-
those. Okay.
Okay,
So it's not like. Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, do we have any other questions or comments regarding?
I just have an observation, and when I do all this, I think about my own budget, my personal budget,
Yeah.
and I kind of expand it for the city, right? When I do a budget, I always have contingency funds because I can't predict the future, I can't predict this on. If I don't spend that contingency fund at the end of the year, I donate it. In other words, I don't just carry it forward, I donate, then it says I spend it all.
right.
But I like to have that contingency fund laying there just in case.
Yeah.
And I guess I agree with what we did, by the way, I'm just saying for my.
I understand, yeah.
I always
And-
have that little extra just in case.
Just in
And then
case. And I feel
give it away.
We've had this conversation a lot of times on the board, and typically the majority wants to, and it's fine, I'm fine either way, I think it's, I think the prerogative though, or the mandate from council is, this is human services set aside money, decided that, and so the council gave this money to us to steward in the best possible way, right? I can bring up, we can put it in the council comm that there was a conversation about wanting to keep part of it as a contingency. We can put that in the council comm and let council weigh in on that. So, and that way would be out of our hands. And it would
So
be
we
in
should
council.
vote on that though, right? Not just put it in.
No, we can mention it.
We can just mention, it's just a conversation. We're not asking, we're not recommending, I would never put a recommendation, I would just
What the conversation.
Yeah.
is.
Oh, okay, sorry, all right.
Which is part of the minutes anyway.
Right, exactly.
Okay, yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
minutes anyway.
Yeah, no, I would never say that, no, I would just say the
Part of the
board,
conversation was.
Yes, and then,
I have some interest in that too.
I mean, it's important to mention anyway.
yeah,
Yeah,
So-
no, yeah, sorry, I didn't,
yeah, no, I was
Yeah.
not suggesting recommending anything, Kathy, I was
okay,
gonna list it, that there was a conversation about it.
okay,
And it's a
thank you.
conversation that's happened a lot.
so,
Okay, I want to ask a question about elections if we're done talking about this.
yes, what about elections?
So we have elections and are we losing?
Yes.
Board members? That-
December 2nd is when she gets sworn in. As of December 2nd, she cannot be on this board.
Yeah.
And so that's a good segue. Here's our reality. I do want to talk about that. Here's the reality. So you all got the invite for November 20th. I need 5 of you to show up. We only have one interview.
Yeah.
We only have one applicant. So we are going to be at 6 board members because Alejandro is rolling off.
Okay.
Rob is rolling off. Cripple, of course, was elected. Kim left to California.
Hmm.
So that puts us at 5, and we're getting one more person in this
It either puts it at 5 or 6.
5 or 6. If you go, yeah, if council doesn't suggest them or you don't recommend, but you have his application. I sent that to you all. So I need at least 5 of you to show up on November 20th. We can do it, like, talk, do you all want to do it like in person, hybrid, virtual, if we care?
I would do in person to meet the, because
Okay.
will he be here?
Then we'll do it hybrid. We'll, yeah, he'll be here. We'll do it hybrid. He'll show up and whoever wants can make it November 20th at 6 o'clock. It's only a 30-minute meeting. We can only do a 30-minute interview per council. So it'll be 30 minutes. So we're gonna be at 6. For me, that's not a problem because I don't need a really full board until we get to the fall. For Christy, it's gonna be an issue because she has stuff that you all need to vote on in the spring. So for those that are left, we're gonna really need you here. Because we're still gonna need, so the way that our quorum works, it's 50% plus 1. So you have an even numbers, you have 6, let's say we get 6, then you need 4. If we only have 5,
Really intense.
then you only need 3.
It's like. At least certain people are gonna be making all of this. It's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you given up people for the November 20th? That people signed up to attend?
Well, people doodle,
Yeah, and that was the majority vote.
So we just need people to actually follow.
How many do you-
Through and then come interview him.
Yes, Kenny?
I'll,
How many
I'll
do you
be
need
there.
on the 20th? Because I have a
Five.
conflict with another board
I just
meeting.
need 5. I need 5 on the 20th.
Be great.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, wait, today.
If you could be here, that would be great. Rob, if you could be here, we're gonna do it in person. I just need 5 people.
I can
We're
be
just
on the
gonna-
20th.
I'll be
Okay.
there.
Well, and Crystal's still on the board at that time, right?
So you
Yeah.
can.
So, yeah. Yeah, so I just need 5 people to make sure that we. No. So if you can, if I, that would be great. And we interviewed Sanjay. He sounds like a young guy. Sounds like he just graduated. And he's so I'm kind of excited to. Yeah, to get that.
And do you need me to email you any recommendations on pair or anything? Or you guys just gonna?
That's gonna happen on January. That's when we take care of tariffs.
And there's no special election opportunity. We go with 5 or 6 for a year.
Yes, we do have a chance again in June. There is a June, so if you, so start thinking about it, you know, folks, it would be, yeah, so if you know, folks, in June, for any folks, it's just gonna be important during the spring for Christy to have forum. Cause she's gonna be bringing forward affordable housing stuff that she needs to do, so we just gotta support our HCI folks, yeah. And then come summer, we need to recruit.
And then
I
for the
appreciate
December
that. Thank
meeting,
you.
the regular meeting, we're planning to do like a dinner, so I'm gonna send a doodle poll to see what you guys are
Any dietary restrictions for the December meeting?
thinking, and then we can order it.
December 11th.
So.
Yeah, sorry, you can't, you.
Liaison.
Sure to
You can tell me the public too.
stay.
So.
No.
This has been a lot of work and I appreciate we got the notes. I will do the math and I will make the recommendation and council come. And again, December 16th is Tuesday night council meeting.
Be there.
Be there if you want to listen to our conversation.
I just want to say thank you to everybody. It was such a pleasure working with you guys and I'm kind of sad to leave this board, but I know it's in good hands, so thank you. And it was a pleasure.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thanks, Patsy. Yes, I will. I'm definitely looking at this board to liaison because we don't have an assigned one. I think technically we do, but I haven't seen anybody here.
And Erin never really showed up, fortunately.
So my hope is to continue to be a fly on the wall when I can.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, if we don't have any other items, comments, questions, then I will go ahead and ask someone to move to adjourn.
Oh, no, we did.
I move we,
See if I can get on the.
Okay.
Number. Or do you have an automatic thing?
No, December you do it.
We have adjourn. Do I have a second?
A second.
All
All right,
Thank you all online.
all in favor?
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Stephanie.
right. So you can end the meeting. It's dinner time.